Today, we will discuss about 3 most famous serial killer in history. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, please subscribe now for more history facts and stories. Also, like and share this video if you find value. Number 1. Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy was active during the 1970s. Bundy was an American serial killer and kidnapper. He confessed to 30 murders committed in the 1970s, but the actual number may be higher. Bundy was known for his charisma and ability to manipulate people. He was born on November 24, 1946, and executed on January 24, 1989. Over the course of several years, Bundy abducted, raped, and murdered numerous young women. His actual victim count remains uncertain, but he confessed to 30 murders committed in several states. Bundy's modus operandi involved feigning injuries, using fake identities, and pretending to need assistance to lure his victims into vulnerable situations. Bundy's crimes escalated in brutality over time, and he often revisited crime scenes to engage in necrophilia and acts of degradation with the corpses. His arrest in 1978 marked the end of his killing spree, and he was eventually sentenced to death. Despite his heinous crimes, Bundy became infamous not only for the extent of his brutality, but also for his ability to present a charming and normal facade. This dichotomy in his personality contributed to the public's fascination with his case. Ted Bundy's life and crimes have been the subject of numerous books, documentaries, and films exploring the psychology of serial killers. Number 2. Jeffrey Dahmer. Jeffrey Dahmer was operating during the 1980s and early 1990s. Dahmer, also known as the Milwaukee Cannibal or the Milwaukee Monster, was an American serial killer and sex offender. He committed the rape, murder, and dismemberment of 17 men and boys. Born on May 21, 1960, Dahmer gained infamy for his gruesome crimes committed during the late 20th century. Operating primarily between 1978 and 1991, Dahmer's modus operandi involved luring young men, often marginalized and vulnerable individuals, to his home. There, he subjected them to sexual assault, murder, and dismemberment. His acts also involved necrophilia and cannibalism. Dahmer's crimes came to light in 1991, when one of his intended victims managed to escape and alerted the police. Upon searching Dahmer's apartment, law enforcement discovered evidence of his horrifying actions, including human remains, photographs of dismembered bodies, and evidence of his gruesome activities. In 1992, Jeffrey Dahmer was convicted of 17 murders, although the actual number of his victims may be higher. He was sentenced to 16 life terms in prison. However, his life was cut short when he was murdered by a fellow inmate at the Columbia Correctional Institution in Portage, Wisconsin, on November 28, 1994. Dahmer's case remains one of the most infamous in the history of serial killers, prompting discussions about the nature of his crimes, mental health issues, and the criminal justice system's handling of such cases. Number 3. John Wayne Gacy. John Wayne Gacy was active in the 1970s. Gacy, known as the Killer Clown, was an American serial killer and sex offender. He murdered at least 33 young men and boys, burying many of them under his house. Gacy often performed at children's parties as Pogo the Clown. Born on March 17, 1942, Gacy gained notoriety for his heinous crimes committed in the 1970s. Operating in the Chicago area, Gacy lured young boys and teenagers to his home under the guise of offering them employment. Once there, he subjected them to sexual assault and murder. Gacy's crimes were particularly gruesome, as he buried many of his victims in the crawl space beneath his house. Gacy's criminal activities went undetected for several years, as he maintained a facade of community involvement and even performed at children's parties as Pogo the Clown. His dual identity as a respected community member and a sadistic killer contributed to the shock and horror when his crimes were eventually uncovered. In 1978, Gacy was arrested and later convicted of 33 murders. He was sentenced to death and spent years on death row appealing his sentence. He was executed by lethal injection on May 10, 1994. The case of John Wayne Gacy remains one of the most disturbing and infamous examples of serial murder, highlighting the need for vigilance and thorough investigations, even in seemingly ordinary and respectable individuals. Thanks for watching this video. Again, please like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Share this video with your friends and family.